Hello everyone, so I'm going to show you how to do a collage practice. Now you watched my live demonstration in the lesson, but today I'm just going to show you in case you missed it or maybe you just need to recap. So how to start off, what we want to do is use the straight edge of the paper. I'm going to show you how to still create some straight edges for these outlines even if you don't have a straight edge to work with. So I'm going to start off with this corner here. It already has a corner made for me, so I'm going to tear out a square piece and I'm going to rip it off. So we are using collage with our hands, so use your fingers to tear most of it and don't use scissors or rulers or anything to cut it. Look how that fits perfectly. I'm going to get this. I'm going to glue my piece of paper that I will be using for this collage instead of gluing it down. What we want to avoid, which is just position it in place. What we want to avoid is gluing onto our worksheets directly. We don't want to do that. It will create a little bit of mess and your fingers will get extra sticky. Now your fingers might still get sticky, it's perfectly fine, but we want to do it in this way. It is more effective and it gives you a lot of a neater, accurate finish as well. So I'm going to just tear, and while I'm doing that, you've probably noticed that sometimes paper does come out in a way that it's not straight. That's okay. This piece I'm not going to use edges. I'm going to tear it, and I can tear more while I'm doing this, just so that it can help me to plan ahead, and this will help you with your time management as well. But I'm not going to do too much and all of it at once. I've just got that one strip, and I know I'm going to use that whole strip and tear it down, so I'm just going to go ahead, same thing. I glue my piece of paper, and then I'm going to leave a little bit of space, and then I'm going to flatten it out. I'm going to continue doing this all on the edges. Now as I'm doing that, I am placing it as close to the edge as possible, but while I'm doing that, sometimes it does come out in a way that leaves you little gaps. Maybe it's gone over the line. Just reposition it while it's still quite damp, your glue, so that you can, and you can flatten out any edges. If you notice that something is flapping up, just use your glue stick and just kind of spread some on the edge and then flatten it out with your finger. We are doing this practice with our hands and our fingers. It is a really good practice. It's really fun as well. Allows you to get more hands on. So just take some time to kind of practice this. You will year 8, and in the future if you do art. It's a really good practice. Look how I'm positioning it just to make sure it's nice and straight. Now as I'm doing this, I'm just going to continue outlining because I want my outline to be done first. This will just help me to I can fill the insides in with any pieces, it doesn't matter, but while I have some straight edges, I'm going to continue using that. And as soon as I'm done, I'm also going to show you what to do if you don't have any straight edges and how to create them. So I'm going to demonstrate that just now for you. And it can overlap, it's perfectly fine. And I'm going to have green, this opposite color just in between, just to kind of blotch it out. Now I'm going to tear a strip. If you're not sure how to tear it, the best way I think is that you create a little tear at the start, and then you just want to take that all the way down. If you do it fast, it might go a little bit wobbly, and that's okay too, don't worry. But if you do it a little bit slow, you can get a little bit more precision in the direction that you want to go. There you go. And now that I have this, it's not got much straight edges apart from here. So what I'm going to do is tear that straight edge first, because then I can still use it here, which is perfectly fine. And then I'm going to show you how to create some straight edges if you don't have any already created with your paper. So all you want to do is tear side of your paper and have a look at your square. Now the square is relatively big still, but if I look and see, is there any straight edge that I can work with? It will already be created, but it's not that straight. I could use it, but it's not all that straight. Now what you could do, the smaller the pieces you create, smaller square more in particular, you will eventually get some straight edges. Now if I look at those two, even though I have that square, you can see that I've got two relatively straight marks. If that doesn't happen, I would only just keep tearing it until I do. Let me test that out. Is that relatively straight? I think it's okay. I can bring it a little bit closer so that it can overlap here with some green, which also works. So that's the best way to create some straight edges, straight lines in your work. I'm going to just flatten this out as well. Look, I'm continuing to use the glue stick on the pieces of paper and not on my work directly. It will get so sticky because you don't really know where the paper is going to go, and it helps you to make sure that the paper's got all the glue it needs and it will stay put that way. Now, I'm now going to show you what to do for the edges as well. For the edges, here's what you want to do. You want to start off with a square piece. You want to work with a square piece that has a straight edge already. Now you can create one the way I have, or you can use a straight edge that you have from the edge of the paper, which I'll show you as well. Now using either of them, what you want to do is start to tear it up in the diagonal line. By creating a tear in the diagonally, you'll end up getting two triangles. Now they might not work out perfectly, but that's okay. We just want to have a practice. So start off, every time I have a practice, it comes out wobbly. The second time, the third time I do it, I start to get the hang of it. Now if I look at this piece now, I've got a bit of a triangle, and then, I don't know, a part of a map piece looks like, a bit wobbly still. So what I'm going to do is test it out. Does it fit? Is it able to fit? If I have a look here, no, it doesn't fit. It doesn't look all that great. What I could then still do is just continue to create a straight line going down, just to kind of get it a little bit more accurate. And it goes smaller, but let's see if that would then fit into my edge. If I have a look now, and I just kind of straighten some of these pieces up, the phrase of the tear, and I try, it's okay. It's not the best, so I want to keep practicing, and I'm going to practice with the piece that I've already teared around, and I've got some straight edges here as well. So what I want to do is just kind of create a diagonal line. Now if I look at these two pieces I've just torn, you can see here that one of them has a very angular point. So let me see if that would fit onto my edge. Just kind of scraping it just so that it's flattened out. Because this paper is rather not thick, but it has a lot of layers, you can peel off a few layers. You can see here the top layer, and then there's a bottom layer, so there's a few layers there. You can flatten that out. And if I try that now, if I just look in the corner and the corner alone, the corner does fit quite perfectly. Not the rest. I wouldn't say this area has, but that's okay. I'm going to use something else, then I'm going to tear this part off as well. So let's go ahead, stick that down. You will get better pieces for sure, but practice and see. And you don't want to use the scissors for this because that's boring. We don't want to cheat. So now I'm going to create some straight edges now, really thin straight edges, and see if I can just add that on the edge here. And just look how it fits. It's quite small and it doesn't go over the outline. And I'm just going to flatten it on to my piece and push it down. Just there. And you can see here that my edge is now full. If you feel like some pieces are going out, you can push it back in or go ahead and tear it off completely. Now I'm going to continue with that, use a bit of a small piece here. I'm going to use this edge. I'm going to use this edge here just to kind of fill up, fill in this area here as well. And just like that, my corners are now getting complete, and I'm starting to collage now, which is perfect and which is what we want as well. So I'm going to continue with this. I'm going to just pile it on top, push it down just so that everything is in fact covered. Again, if you feel like a piece is a bit too big, just scrape it off, that's fine. And then flatten it out. Now, let's see if we've got a straight edge that I can work with, that I can then, not very straight here, not all that straight, but what I can do is tear this in half again and try to be as accurate as possible while I'm doing it, and I will eventually get a straight piece. And just like that, that fits there perfectly. Just pile some glue on the edge and stick it on. And then I want to switch my colors in between and start to use the green. And you want to think about the composition here as well. Just going to keep that nice and neat. If I need to, I'll probably tear that off as well. I'm going to leave it as it is otherwise. I'm going to tear a little bit of that off. There you go. And just like that, let me just kind of make that clear. just like that, you've got some edges, and now I can do the same thing. So think about balance. You don't want everything to be completely one color, in my case to be red. I'm going to keep tearing these pieces, working with the edges, and just like that, you've got this. Work with this edge here, and it's broken down. So ultimately what we want to do, you'll have a look at my waggle as well, and for that we want to make sure that our work looks nicely balanced, like the examples I will show you. Like this example here, and you want to think about the balance as you're doing that. So yeah.